concerns of just like pain, and I have to acknowledge that. And sometimes when I'm up here thinking, oh, you're going to heal yourself, again, it doesn't go well with the people. So I've written down the word humble and acknowledge their pain, because sometimes I felt like I wasn't doing enough of that. But everything was going to come in here into the middle, and it's words we used a lot here about the pause, and being at the heart. You really, something I came up with just yesterday, for it was a place that the heart is really a place of feeling. And obviously we come out here with our hands and we feel, but we have to have that heart in the right place. It's also a place of compassion, and these are just ideas I just like to focus on before I get to work. And obviously the one word I put in here in the middle was the pause, so that really I know, I can't be thinking about these things while I'm working. But just as I take breaks or go through my day, I just kind of been focusing on that. And it's been nice. I'm still working on it. It's a work in progress. And the funny thing is, as I'm working on this in progress, I had a call last week with somebody who was talking about strokes and his first office visits. And I was working and so concerned that I hadn't really perfected my whole little system over here. But meanwhile, I was going, wow. The energy focus on all that other stuff, I really never put that much energy into it. And I know it exists, and I have to deal with it, but I was going, wow, it's two different mindsets of where we're coming from. And that's what I have to share. What else did I have out here? I don't remember. Yeah. I'll leave it at that.
All right. Anyone want to ask Fernando anything? Anyone? Joanne?
So what was the significance of making it a cross? It was just like a...
Because I was coming out, I'm here on the vertical of my highest self or lower energies, but coming out here is being on the earth, I think. Not being above it, not being below it, and just having to deal with the right thing at the right time, and coming from that heart place. And sometimes you gotta be rough with people, sometimes you gotta be nice to people, sometimes there's no system, but I know I have to come from my highest. And to myself, my lower stuff was just acknowledging, hey, I might be thinking these ideas, but I also got to recognize, I just got to help this person out a little bit, not to worry about their evolution of mankind, just make them feel a little bit better, acknowledge their pain, and be humble. Even though I have these ideas in my head, I'm just saying, okay, I'm here, I'm just a regular person like you, I don't know all the answers either, But sometimes you do have to come with that authority of going, all right, I'm in control here. So it's working that out. But again, I made these into little hands in my picture.
Sorry about that, folks. All right, anyone have Don Fernando anything?
You mentioned that it was like a traffic light.
Yeah.
I always thought traffic light, the red was on the top.
Is it
I
red
could
on
be
top?
wrong.
No, you might be. No.
No,
It
red-
is.
It
red
is.
on
Okay,
top.
well, I flipped it around.
Okay, no, I was just
Poetic
wondering why
license.
you fled it.
I thought that was a good place to go with green and the red to
Yeah.
stop.
Okay, may I follow
Go
up?
ahead.
Because red represents passion,
Sure.
okay, and creativity. So you're coming from your passionate and creative center. Like you said, you don't want to come from the lofty up here. You want to be more humble and understanding of their suffering, and so you're going to keep it there. So that's, personally, I think that's a good place to be, passionate and creative from that center, as opposed to the loftier ideals.
Yeah, I'm trying to bring that into the middle. And it was funny, I was listening yesterday and somebody said, some people up here all the time, they can't get anything done.
Right.
And then obviously people down here sometimes, you say they have creativity, sometimes they lack imagination, where these people, think of things.
Anyone? Go ahead, Joanne.
Are you familiar with the colors of chakras?
I know they have colors, but I don't know the colors, how they're associated.
Green is the heart.
Okay. Well, that's a good place to go. Maybe this is a work in progress.
Just let you know, green
My
is-
system is not complete.
Green is the heart.
That's a good place to
And
put it.
yellow is your center here. And red is the base. It is more ancestral based stuff.
Blood.
Blood. It's more like, the struggles of life would be in the red. So,
All right, Fernando.
matches energetically.
All right, well, that's a good answer. Excellent answer.
It matches energetically. That's what I'm saying.
Like the balls.
Yes.
All right.
No, I've heard of that, so that's why it's
I'll go then.
Control the crowd, please.
Yeah,
No
Fernando, a
banter, back
little
and
too
forth.
much crosstalk there. So,
My fault,
takes two to tango.
Honey, with that,
Feed
I'm
attack for bananas.
All right, so my name's Brian Patrick Horton, chiropractor, Jersey City, New Jersey. Now I'm going to mention something, but if I speak about the Bible, or if I mention like from Hinduism or Buddhism, I'm not coming at it from a religious point of view. I'm not trying to get anyone to be looking at it that way. I just use all these things as it's the story of a soul that's advancing. So that's when I talk about these things, that's where I'm coming from. So let's go to the Bible, Genesis 5, which is the Old Testament, and it talks about so-and-so lived for, had a bunch of kids and lived for 800 years and died. This one lived for 900 years and died, 700 years and died. Then you get to this guy Jared, and he has a kid named Enoch. Enoch has some kids. Enoch walked with God, they said in the book, for 300 years. And then, at the end, like the last quote is, and Enoch walked with God, and he was not, for God took him. It never said he died. When you go, and then you go right back to his son, Methuselah, he died. And his son, Lamech, he died. And then his son was Noah, by the way, and that's a whole other story. But all those people, they said, died. It never said, so what does that mean, number one, that he walked with God? What does that mean that God took him? Now, I read the book of Enoch. If you want to go to the lost books of the Bible, I read it. And it's a long book, but he basically talks about when he was walking with God, he learned all the mysteries of the universe. God showed him that. And there's a lot of other stuff in there. But what I'm focusing on is, what does this have to do with chiropractic, someone might ask me. And I say everything. Because the word die, we could yes, D-I-E, or let's put it to another thing, D-Y-E, to die. To dye what? I can dye this shirt to a different color. You can make it green, whatever, red, whatever you want. So it's like to change colors. So I'm thinking, to dye, maybe does that mean you have to come back and keep changing, or change a different color, or change and change? Or Enoch was just at that point, he's like, well, I don't need to do, for some reason God's like, I guess he doesn't need to do it, I'm just going to take him. I don't know what all this means, I'm just putting it out there, but I really think chiropractic has something to do with just allowing God to take us. And maybe that's that surrender. And what exactly that means, I don't know, so I don't claim to know, I'm just putting it out there, so if during the week it comes to you, call me up and tell me, because I'd like to hear it. Okay? And it has some other stuff, but I don't want to get into it. So I find this stuff fascinating. I'm really curious as how come it never said he died. It just says God took him, and there's little Jack. So anyone, so I'm done. Does anyone want to ask me anything? I know it's a bit of an odd subject, but...
Do you know like what the original language was and that interpretation? Like, were the words similar, like in the original language of what they're saying?
I don't know. See, what I used was the King James version. And that guy went back and he reinterpreted it because he says it was interpreted properly. A guy named William Tinsdale. And the King of England said, stop it because you're making me look bad. He didn't stop. They told him a second time, stop it, you're making me look bad. He didn't stop. The third time they killed him. So, I think the original, what was the original text? Some people say it was, what was it, Samaria, whatever. It could be that language. So I think he went back to the, I don't know, I'm going to look that up, I don't know.
Probably Aramaic.
Yeah, Aramaic, that's the language I was thinking. Nancy?
Yeah, hi, can you hear me?
Yeah.
I'll hold it over here. Go ahead, Nancy.
Okay, hi everybody.
Hello.
This is very strange. Hi everybody. Do you think that, just like in the Bible, when they were in a higher spiritual dimensional form, they lived longer? do you think chiropractic can somehow support the physical body transforming to a point where it can live longer, maybe past 100 or even more? We don't usually live to 800 now, but I'm just wondering about that.
Yeah, I mean, I was also thinking about that as well. And the answer is I don't know, but I'm going to stand back. I'm going to say, I'll just say yes. And I'll have an explanation another day. So I really don't know, but something says yes. So does anyone else want to ask me anything? All right, we'll clap for me. Thank you. Do I say anything, Joanna? No? Nancy, do you want to say anything? Or Sora? Sora, do you want to say anything?
I think Jack wants to say something.
Sora?
Jack, you're out of bed.
Do you want to say something? No. Nancy, do you want to say something?
Yes, I do.
Go ahead.
Yes, I do.
Yeah, when you hear your trip.
I'm going to come over here. Okay.
I wanted to. Okay.
Why should
Go ahead, Nancy, whenever you're ready.
Okay. Okay. I just got back from a trip to Israel, and I spent time in Jerusalem, and I have to tell you guys, the spiritual vibration there is so high, it permeates everything you do. It permeates your eating and sleeping and talking and walking and everything you do, not only your prayer and your meditation. So I get back from Israel and started doing readings again, and I had a client who was having a lot of pain, physical pain, and she's a regular chiropractic patient, so I was talking with her about that in the reading, and she said she was going for wave piezo, some kind of treatment, that there is some machine that's out there that puts electric shock waves through your body and relieves the pain in some way. And I personally found it very bizarre. It was very shocking to me after coming from Jerusalem, where your spiritual vibration is raised up directly by God. And so I did a little research on this, and it turns out that this is something that people are doing in chiropractic offices now. They buy these machines and do this electroshock, whatever it is, fast wave something. So I just wanted to share that. I personally, I know I'm being judgmental, but I can't imagine that that is something that a person could just use. I just blew my mind in a chiropractor's office. So that's all I want to say.
All right. Anyone want to ask Nancy anything? Anyone? Come on, John.
Nancy, do you know anything like, do they hook them up like an EKG? I'm trying to get a picture of what kind of thing it is.
It's not an EKG, it's some machine that people are buying. I think it's called the Piezo, or that may be the name of the company, but it zooms in electro waves, like high electro waves into the body. And it's supposed to stop pain.
All right.
That's all I know. I could find more. I could find out more, but it's kind of shocking.
Anyone else?
Literally.
Anyone else want to ask Nancy anything? I'll ask you something, Nancy. Well, as far as coming back from Israel.
Hello?
Yeah, Nancy, can you hear me? No, once again, Nancy, can you hear me?
Yeah.
What was one of your, if you just tell us maybe one more thing about your big takeaway from being in Israel, something, maybe one more thing.
That everything we learned, that I learned anyway, I'll speak for myself, the Bible is real. I was at the wall of Solomon's temple, and it's real. People refer to the Bible as a mythology, and I have to tell you, that is a land where Abraham walked around, where Moses walked around, where Jesus walked around. It's all real. It's no mythology.
All right, Nancy. Anyone else want to ask Nancy anything? All right, Nancy, thank you very much. The floor is open. Oh, well, she's already said no. And you, Joanne?
No.
You ready? Phil Scime is our featured speaker. Excuse me.
Here you go.
Let me get out of the way.
Hello.
Wait.
Just stand back a bit so I get you in here.
Good.
You do anything.
Hello. Hello, Nancy. I want to thank everyone for coming this evening. It's an honor and privilege to share what I understand the Bible to be and chiropractic. And this is not to say anyone else is wrong for their understanding. Many a story, even mythological stories, are said using real places, events, and situations. Like the Romans back then did exist, but the Romans to mean something different, even though they existed as a race and people. Having said that, this evening I'd like to take you on a little understanding of this book called the Bible, and this one part particularly about this man named Lot, L-O-T. And Lot was the nephew of Abram. Now Abram eventually became Abraham. Now Abram in Hebrew means exalted, held in high esteem. Abraham means exalted father. It morphed from exalted to exalted father. Now Abram was the uncle of Lot. And the reason why I'm concentrating on Lot today is because it was very interesting to me that this man was visited by 3 angels in the land of Sodom. Now, Pat, years ago, told us about Sodom and Gomorrah. And Sodom and Gomorrah, he would make reference to that this is the sod, your hair, the rootlets go into the brain, and the hair takes the spirituality and brings it in, so you can go more. That's what he said. And for back then, it was good. But Pat always said, what I say yesterday is for yesterday. But doesn't mean it won't change tomorrow. And he admonished us to develop this thing called chiropractic. And so I have a different understanding today of Sodom and Gomorrah. The word Sodom means to burn. And Gomorrah means copious amount of water. Now, the 3 angels came, and the people wanted to know them biblically, and he said, no, take my daughters instead. And finally, God said, this is an evil people, and I will destroy them. Take you and your family. He had other daughters that were married. He had son-in-laws, and he had the 2 daughters that were not married. Well, the son-in-laws thought he was crazy, said, Pop, you're a little delusional here. And they decided to stay, and the angel told him, well, take your 2 daughters and your wife and leave before God destroys it. So he takes his 2 daughters and leaves. And as he's going and leaving, he was told, do not look back. And we know what his wife did. She looked back and turned into a pillar of salt. And last month, I alluded to this. Why salt and not a piece of wood or cement, a column of cement or stone? Why salt? But it's interesting, I'm going to continue the story, that he goes into the city of Zoar, Z-O-A-R. And Zoar used to be called Bela. And the word Zoar means to diminish. And Bela, its former name, means to devour. So what does this all mean? If I look at it as an actual historical event, for me, it makes very little sense. I glean very little from it as a historical event. How does that help me? But if I look at it allegorically, it is, for me, a treasure trove as to an insight of what I'm all about. Now, when you read the Bible, you get different insights, and that will be your treasure trove of what you're all about. So this is about Phil Scime. The word Lot, his name Lot, means to conceal. It also means your fate. You know, my lot in life, my fate, my destiny. So, it's very interesting that the exalted Abram, and what do I exalt in me? My knowledge, my wisdom, my sense of identity, who and what I am, exalts me. But it conceals my fate. My true fate is concealed. Because as I leave Sodom to burn, and Gomorrah, copious water, what are we made out of? What's the majority of our bodies made out of? Water. Over 70% of our body is water. And we have this thing called a metabolic rate, or cellular respiration, which gives off as a byproduct heat. Through this metabolic rate of cellular respiration, we're burning ourselves literally to death. We are burning out, we're burning up. So the Gomorrah, the water in me, is trying to stave off the Sodom or that burning in me. And Pat years ago used to say, when people told him, Pat, you have to drink more water. You have to drink more water. And he said, that's the problem with too much water. This water has to be crystallized into a crystalline form so that we can see through. Where the water now, we're all wet behind the ears. We don't know what we're talking about. So now this is all coming together for me. That my lot in life, my fate in life, is to be spiritually aligned. And this is how it all adds up or comes together with chiropractic. As I leave the Gomorrah and the Sodom, and I go into the land of Zoar, which is to diminish, from my understanding, my egoic understanding of self. As I diminish the ego, now remember, it was called Bela, and Bela was to devour. But we can't devour our egos, because if I devour my ego, I become egoless, commonly called dementia, where I forget who I am, where I live, My ego serves me. It gets me from here to home because it's the summation of my experiences. But they can also enslave me, my experiences. You hurt me last week, so I hate you today. I'm a slave to that ego. But if I could diminish my ego, if I can go into the land of Zoar, me, I will diminish the ego, not devour it, diminish it, so that the spiritual, or my lot in life, my fate, will be aligned with my divine. Through chiropractic. Every adjustment I take, every adjustment I give, helps me diminish my ego. Helps diminish that person's ego by aligning them with their divine. So now why salt? Why salt? This is what I asked last month. Why did his wife look back? Why did the angel say, don't look back? I remember when I was 17 in 1974, there was a new TV comedy series that came out on WABC, Channel 7, called Happy Days. And Happy Days was about the 50s. And this is 1974. It was way before the internet, way before Google, way before all the nonsense that we've been going through. And compared to today, 1974 is Happy Days. But yet, back in 1974, I was looking at the 50s as the Happy Days. So the present moment is never happy for the ego. Why? Why is it not happy for the ego? I'll tell you why. Because what is salt made out of? Salt is made out of sodium, which is very volatile. You take a chunk of sodium the size of a golf ball, throw it in your pool, boom, there'll be an explosion, it'll almost take down your house. That's how volatile sodium is. And chlorine gas, Cl. Chlorine is very toxic, noxious to us. We will die if we inhale too much chlorine gas. But yet, if I take this poison and I take this volatility and I put them together, there's the mathematical equation of 2 negatives equal a positive. Not only is it positive, it's an essential ingredient of life. Without salt, we die. So now what does this represent? Pat said we're living in a what system?
Risk system.
Risk. Risk. Why? Look at all the volatility. Look at it. How things can just break down instantly. When my life can break down instantly. Look at all the toxins. Man-made and non-man-made. Even the natural ones are still toxic to us. But yet, if I somehow can take these toxins with my volatility, put them together, I would become neutral or essential for life. So that's why I'm in the risk system. I'm here because my job is to try to take the volatility in my life and the toxicity of my life and neutralize them by bringing them together. And the reason why I look in the past is because I can't do that in the present. So I look in the past. And what do I see in the past? It was blissful. It was harmonious. It was happy days. But was it? No. The ego is living in the delusional understanding of itself. So what we must grasp is this, from my understanding of this thing called lot. I live in a volatile system. I live in a toxic system. And if somehow I can bring those two together, not as separate entities, bring them together, it will be an essential ingredient in my life by letting them neutralize each other. But I don't, do I? I keep the toxicities away. I gotta eat organic food. I can't take that shot, you know, the immunization shots. I can't stay in the city because it's too polluted, the air. I gotta go to the country. I gotta eat the right foods. And the volatility, what do? I take out insurance plans, right? For my house, for my car, for my health, for my life. This is what most people do. So they try to minimize the volatility in their lives, and they try to minimize their toxicity in their lives, when all they have to do is try to combine the two, and it will neutralize them. But they won't. And that's where chiropractic comes in. Every adjustment you take, it aligns you with your volatility. Every adjustment you take, it aligns you with your toxicity. And it neutralizes both of them. So keep taking your adjustments. And with that, I'm done today. That was nice and short.
Excellent. Anyone want to ask Phil anything? Anyone? Fernando?
You always talk about your ego and whatnot, and here you're talking about bringing the volatility and toxicity together. I just wonder, how do you see it, like your union in marriage, and that coming together with your ego, and how's that supposed to work out? Are you a sole operator anymore, really? Just these things affecting me.
The idea is to lose as the two become one, it says. The two become one. And what they're really meaning is not that you lose who you are, it's that you lose who you think you are. And who do you think you are? All your experiences. You might be, let's say, a conservative, and your wife might, let's say, is a liberal. Okay? And to unite the two, you let go of your conservative ideology, and she lets go of her liberal ideology, and you come together and you form a new ideology that serves both of you. Not one, you know, at the expense of the other, because then obviously it falls apart. A house divided falls apart. So the idea is, she's going to be toxic, you're going to be toxic. You're going to be volatile, she's going to be volatile. So what you do is you take those volatilities and toxicities, you lay them down. As Jesus said, no greater love has a man who lays down his life for a friend. Not literally, I push you out of the way and get hit by a car. No. My understanding of life, I lay it down so I can understand your way of life better. And the two now become one. That's how I'm interpreting that to be. Whether it's correct or not, I have no idea. But I do know it's right for me.
Anyone else want to ask Phil anything? So Phil, Lot's wife, her name was Sarah, correct?
Yes.
Why did she look back?
Because Sarah, again, has nothing to do with the feminine.
Yeah.
It has to do with our understanding of the present moment. At the present moment, I have zero control. If I give you a present, you have no idea what's in that box, that gift box. None. When you open it, now you have the chance of either accepting it or rejecting, returning it, regifting it, or keeping it, right? But at the moment that you receive the present, do you have any choice? No. So what do we do as egos? At this moment, the present, this is the gift, the present. My ego can't control it. It's impossible. So what do? I look back to the happy times. Ah, the good old days. Weren't they grand? But they weren't. Because even in the good old days, the ego couldn't control them. So, if the good old days were very, very, very toxic or volatile, that you had an abusive parent, or you were molested, whatever, and you don't even want to go back there, what does it do? In lieu of going back, what does it do? It goes into the future, because it can control the future with his mind, right? My ego could say, oh, it's going to be better, it's going to be, I'm going to get what I want, the dream job, the dream relationship, right? What have you. But it doesn't have to deal with the present. So Lot's wife couldn't deal with the present destruction of what she understood to be her life. She had to leave. Okay? Again, for me it's all allegorical, but for an historical thing, the story, she had to leave her home, what she knew as to be familiar. And she wanted to go back home to be neutral. That's what salt is, neutrality. The volatility of that moment she couldn't handle. But by looking back, she became the pillar of salt. She became neutral. Right? She took the volatility and toxicity of her situation, that her city has been destroyed, and made it an essential ingredient for her life. For me, that's my understanding of it. You do what you want with yours.
Anyone else want to ask Phil anything? Anyone? All right, Phil. Can you explain maybe more about what it is neutral means for you?
Okay.
For me. Help.
Neutral means there's no judgment. There's no right or wrong. There's no up or down. There's no left and right. There just is. There's an isness of being. Neutral. You're not saying anybody is right, and you're definitely not saying anyone is wrong. You're just saying, basically, nothing. Or as you said it best, that you just said nothing and let him, in the awkward silence, let them come to their own recognition of what they said or did. So, to me, neutrality means no judgment. None of the present, the gift that I'm receiving right now. I'm not saying it's good, and I'm not saying the Buddha alluded to it by, he said, I'm going to paraphrase and make it more modern. Whether you win the lottery or you just lost your mother, you should have the same reaction. If you react with the lottery or weeping with the death of your mother, you're not neutral. Now, your fate or your lot is tied up in what? External situations that you have no control over. So you're going to be like a sheet in the wind. Whichever way the wind blows, you're going to go. Whichever way life goes, you're going to go. And what happens? Are we happy doing that? Of course not. I mean, we're never fulfilled. We're never satisfied. So stay neutral. Stay that pillar of salt. And you will find your joy. Guaranteed. Without worrying about anybody else, what they're doing. You know, I told this to my cousin today. We went to see my aunt's grave because we missed it on Tuesday. She was 102 years old. She lived a great life. God bless her. And I told her, you know, in our 20s, we worried what everybody was thinking about us. In our 40s, we really couldn't care what people really were thinking about us. And now that I'm in my 60s, I realize they were never thinking about me at all. So all that wasted time judging myself, judging others, when I should have just been neutral, salt, taking the volatility and the toxicity and bringing them together and make it essential, as opposed to that which you resist persists. So stop resisting the volatility, stop resisting the toxicity, bring it, accept it, be neutral to it, and it won't harm you. As the Buddha said, be one with all, nothing can hurt you.
Anyone else want to ask Phil anything? When people resist things, you said persist. What effect does that have on them? Are they stuck in that moment?
Yes.
All right.
The reason why they resist it is because we're afraid of the unknown. Okay? And I know it's part of the amygdala over here that, you know, the fight or flight, is that going to eat me? And I get it. I understand we're hardwired for that. But when you're in fear, you tend to resist even that which is good for you. That will definitely help you. You will resist it because you're in fear. And now the way you let go of it is acceptance. And no matter what the results are, you accept it. That's the neutrality. So yes, they are stuck in fear. That's why they resist. And the reason why it persists is because God is trying to knock them down so they can get up.
Anyone else want to ask Phil anything? Joanne?
What's your acceptance prayer?
Acceptance is the answer. I maintain serenity when I can accept people, places, situations, events as being exactly the way they're supposed to be at this very moment. Nothing, absolutely nothing happens in God's world by mistake. Until I can accept my humanness, I cannot know peace. Until I can accept life completely on life's terms, I will not be joyous. I will keep my focus on acceptance while maintaining a positive attitude with love and gratitude. Is it easy? Heavens no. I can accept you hurting me. I can accept you, even beating me up, verbally or physically. Hurt a loved one? Now you got a problem with me. So there's a lot of evolution I have to go through. But I'm like the man, because somebody said, but Phil, you don't act this way. You're right. I don't. There's no halo over my head. Not yet. But I'm like the person in the woods who's lost. And I'm walking around trying to find my way. And I realize, wow, I already passed this place. I've been here before. And I realize I'm walking around in circles. So what do? You stop. Be still. You stop. And look for guide posts or signs. And what do? I look up. I know the sun comes from the east, goes to the west. I say, oh, look at that. Oh, my shadow is over here. It's going west. So that must be east. That must be north. That must be south. I know the highway was south from here. So I'm going to turn around and go that way. Am I out of the woods? No. I took the first step to get out of the woods. How did I take that first step? Recognizing and admitting I'm lost. Most people think, I'm not lost. I know exactly where I am. I know exactly what I'm doing. I know exactly my purpose in life. Really? God bless you, because you're more delusional than I am. And it must be great to be that delusional, that you know exactly what your lot in life is. I have no clue, and I'm 66 years old. So I've now admitted I'm lost, but I'm looking for the signposts, which the Gathering of Light has helped me. Obviously, chiropractic has helped me tremendously. And I'm heading out of the woods. And that's why Pat said, the Bible talks, my people are stiff-necked. Because right here is the aqueduct of Sylvia in the medulla. And right there, aqueduct means water. Sylvia means woods. Or water and woods is swamp. I'm stuck in mud, in swamp, right here. I have to get through, get out of the woods. I'm stuck right here. That's why that Alice adjustment really helps people. They're stuck right there. So finally, they can get through. So finally, I can get through.
Anyone else want to ask Phil anything? Anyone? Anyone? All right, Bill, thank you.
Thank you.
Excellent.
Thank you.